Hare Krishna. And welcome to the 5th day of this residential. Sorry to interrupt your conversations. This morning, we will be taking a look at our sadhana. Good idea? Mike, please. Okay. Still, they need to get the mic.
We can get a print out of every day, what are we learning, like today sadhana, afternoon what, day after, like in GBC meeting, agendas are there every day.
Yes, today, thank you. This morning we will focus on sadhana. And this afternoon we will focus on succession. Creating a succession plan. That is the basic plan for the day. So taking a look at our sadhana. From the zonal supervisor service description. Demonstrates exemplary personal behavior in terms of spiritual practices, ethics, and the faithful presentation of Srila Prabhupada's teachings. So personal behavior, exemplary in terms of spiritual practices. By spiritual practices we mean Navavidha Bhakti. A zonal supervisor should be knowledgeable in Srila Prabhupada books. Also, that demonstrates competence to introduce, promote, and sustain spiritual standards. As you will see, some of you are already familiar with those quotes, but as you will see, repeated many times in that book, being a Srila Prabhupada Nuga, Srila Prabhupada wanted for his zonal secretaries, for his GBCs, he clearly said many times the most important thing is that devotees chant, read books, get up in the morning. So the most important role is to promote, maintain, increase, sustain spiritual life. Ultimately, it's a spiritual movement, and spiritual life is what we are all about. Because, obviously, in our effort at devotional service, we also acquire properties, we also make missionary plans, we also need skills to, say, protect the properties, managing the properties, managing operations, making plan for spreading Krishna consciousness. But obviously, all of this is finalized to spiritual life. So what do we mean by sadhana? If a friend or a younger devotee asks you, Prabhu, how is here the importance of sadhana, the importance of what actually, can you tell me in few words what sadhana means? Please take a piece of paper and give the answer. What is sadhana? In your own words. Feel free to write in your own favorite language. You don't have to write in English, it's your own little reflection. What do we mean by sadhana?
Bengali? ঠিক আছে
You don't need to write an essay, a paper, a PhD, a dissertation, just a simple definition. That will do. Would you like to share your definition, Prabhu?
I have 3 points. Sadhana, it is a way to siddha. Siddha is perfection. It is bhava or prema. Second, 9 process of bhakti yoga. And third is Daivi sadhana. It is from Srimad Bhagavatam. I forgot. Vaidya sadhana. Yeah, not Vadana. Daivi sadhana. It is, there is a description in Srimad Bhagavatam, and is wake up at 4 o'clock and do bathing, and after the Mangalarati. Daily sadhana.
Thank you. Daily sadhana. Would you like to share your definition?
Okay, Prabhu. So, sadhana means daily spiritual practice to attain spirituality or God consciousness.
Would you like to share yours?
Sadhana is reading, chanting, study, and daily prayers.
You seem eager to
Hearing and practices by which we can achieve our goal in spiritual life.
share. 2 more?
Following regular spiritual practice to increase and sustain our Krishna conscious realization.
Practice of spiritual activities with the consciousness of trying to please Guru and Krishna.
Thank you very much. We're not going to hear from all of you, but thank you very much for those who shared. Now, there is, as far as I can see, there's nothing wrong in any of the definitions. And I'm sure there will be nothing wrong even if we go to all the definitions. This morning we'll take a few minutes to get a little technical, okay? According to our legacy, what exactly sadhana means. And actually, Prabhu Visvavasu really centered the, we could say, correct answer, or the most correct answer, right, in this first point. Which was your first point?
Sadhana means way to the perfection, to siddha. Yes? Yes, it's way to siddha, to Krishna prema or bhava.
Yes, actually this is the traditional, concise, and accurate definition. Sadhana is what brings to bhava and prema. And everything else is also right. I mean, reading, shravanam, kirtanam, navavida bhakti, getting up in the morning, that's also part of sadhana, certainly. So this is from the Nectar of Devotion. Would you like to answer? No, answer. Read.
Nectar of Devotion, Chapter 2, the first stage of devotion. Practice means employing our senses in some particular type of work. Therefore, devotional service in practice means utilizing our different sensory organs in service to Krishna. This practice is not for developing something artificial devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Is the natural instinct of every living entity. When we wish to develop our innate capacity for devotional service, there are certain processes which, by our accepting and executing them, will cause that dormant capacity to be invoked. Such practice is called sadhana bhakti.
This is the masterful rendition of Srila Prabhupada using almost exclusively English words. Now let us, as you know, Nectar of Devotion is a summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So let's go at the original text. Radhishyam Prabhu, would you like to read, or you shared enough spiritual knowledge with us today? No, you can read. Okay. Maybe you can skip the word by word.
कृति साध्या भवेत् साध्य भावासा साधना विधा नित्य सिद्धस्य भावस्य प्राकट्यम हृदि साध्यता. When transcendental devotional service, by which love for Krishna is attained, is executed by the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti, or the regulative discharge of devotional service. Such devotion eternally exists within the heart of every living entity. The awakening of this eternal devotion is the potentiality of devotional service in practice.
Let's see another translation, this time same verse, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:2:2. Another translation, this time by Bhanu Maharaj. Would you like to read?
तत्र साधन भक्ति कृति साध्या भवेत् साध्य भावा सा साधनाभिधा नित्य सिद्धस्य भावस्य प्राकट्यम हृदि साध्यता. Now sadhana bhakti will be defined. Action of the senses which produces the stage of bhava is called sadhana bhakti. This attained state of bhava bhakti, sadhyata, is an eternal sthayi bhava which is not created but simply manifests within the soul by the spiritual energy of the Lord.
Thank you. Let's take a look at some excerpts, one from Srila Jiva Goswami commentary.
When bhakti is cultivated by actions of the senses, it is called sadhana bhakti. Sadhana ends with the attainment of bhava. Sadhana is that by which bhava and prema are achieved.
One more commentary, this time from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur.
This bhava is eternal and merely appears within the heart of the devotee. Bhava also includes hearing, chanting, and other actions. It is not just emotions. The emotions and actions of bhava are all eternal and spiritual and not material, because their appearance in the future will be accomplished by the extraordinary actions of the most excellent transformations, Sambit and Ladini, of the Lord's Sarup Shakti.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, a very, very famous verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita.
नित्य सिद्ध कृष्ण प्रेम साध्य खबनाय श्रवणादि शुद्ध चित्त करयोदाय. Pure love for Krishna is eternally established in the hearts of the living entities. It is not something to be gained from another source. When the heart is purified by hearing and chanting, this love naturally awakens.
So the same concept repeated in different words. There is intrinsic love in the heart, and the process of sadhana bhakti, navavida bhakti, shravanadi, shravan, etc., reawakens this prema, Krishna prema. So, Sriman Balgovinda Prabhu has been sharing with us different excerpts from Acharyas in the morning after Mangalarti, with the goal of encouraging us to go beyond mechanical chanting. And certainly, just like there is mechanical chanting, there is also mechanical sadhana or mechanical practice of hearing, chanting, reading, getting up in the morning, and so on. Certainly, remembering the goal helps in freeing oneself from the mechanicity of the practice. Knowing that we are doing sadhana to get the sadhya. Sadhya, the perfection, bhava and prema. Sadhana, the means, and sadhaka, the performer, the practitioner. One last quote on this. This is Bengali, so we need someone who knows Bengali.
Ragahina jano bhaje shastrero ajana aggaya Vaidhi bhakti bali tare sarva shastre gai.
Prabhu generally reads Bengali in Bengali script. that's of course. So that's why a little hesitation. If it was in Bengali script, he would have given a perfect expression. Ragahina jana bhaje shastra aghyaya vaidhi bhakti boli tare sarve shastra gaya. So all the shastra says that vaidhi bhakti is something that somebody who was not ragahina, doesn't have this raga, he acts according to shastra aghyaya, according to the order of shastra. Shastra and guru says, do this, do that, and they do, even if they don't have raga. So that's called Vaidhi Bhakti. And Srila Prabhupada say in the purport,
From Srila Prabhupada's purport, according to this process, one hears, chants, remembers, and engages in deity worship, acting under the direction of a spiritual master. Those are the essential primary activities of devotional service.
thank you. So since these are the essential, primary activities of devotional service, we'll focus on three main: chanting, japa, especially japa, hearing, remembering in the form of reading Srila Prabhupada books, studying Srila Prabhupada books, and deity worship. So our focus this morning is, let's analyze our relation with the holy name, japa specifically, the books, reading and studying, which is not exactly the same thing, and deity worship. Any questions or comments so far about this discussion about sadhana bhakti? Comments? Questions? we'll also look at this function of the zonal supervisor and any spiritual leader actually, but specifically the zonal supervisor, in properly using the pointer without switching off the screen. Considering how to improve our capacity to promote spiritual standards. The first three we'll analyze especially for our own practice. The fourth is, again, in our functional role of spiritual leadership, spiritual supervisor, how can we increase our capacity to promote spiritual life, spiritual standards, spiritual practice. So we'll take a couple of quotes on the japa, and then we'll have a little bit of a self-reflection. Parabhakti Prabhu, would you like to read?
Of all the regulative principles, the spiritual master's order to chant at least 16 rounds is most essential.
Do you like to read that?
Chanting japa should be done early in the morning with full concentration, preferably during the Brahma Muhurta time.
So just, again, a couple of important quotes, 16 rounds, most important instruction of the Guru, when, early in the morning is best, preferably Brahma Muhurta time. Now, with the help of our assistants, we will distribute this. It's called, can you go around? Reflecting on your relation with the holy name. So we'll do one page at a time. First the holy name in the form of japa, then the books of knowledge, then deity worship, then the promoting standards. So we'll take one page at a time, and what's written should be hopefully self-explanatory. List 3 reasons why the chanting of Hare Krishna mantra is important for you as a person, as a devotee. Then rate your japa. Evaluate your japa, explain your rating. List some challenges, obstacles, or difficulties, what you could do to overcome or solve them. Any other relevant comment or reflection. Any question about the exercise? So one page at a time. Feel free, this is your personal reflection, so feel free to write in your language. You can write in Bengali, you can write in Russian, you can write in, what's that, Tamil? So let's take a few minutes doing this. And you will not be asked to show to anybody. This is your personal reflection. one way of answering this question, what could you do to overcome, solve the obstacle, challenge, or difficulty? Another way to answer that question or to formulate that question would be, whatever number you have, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, what could you do to bring it to a 10? If it's not a 10, I don't know what you wrote, but if it's not a 10, what could you do to bring it to a 10? That's another way of looking at it. Actually, the exercise will be one page at a time. So we stay on the holy name for now. Some of you have already gone to the second page, some of you on the third page. I'm sorry, there are only 4 pages, so you cannot go further, but okay. I'm just trying to understand when everybody is done with the first page. So I think one more minute, and then one more minute, and then we move to the second part. Okay, so let's move, for now, we'll revisit this, but for now, let's move to reading Srila Prabhupada books. Srila Prabhupada said reading is Shravanam, because it's recorded sound, so by reading, we hear. In fact, even technically, when we read, we hear the sound of the words in our head. This is a letter to a GBC. Would you like to read that, Umapati Prabhu?
Regular reading means associating Srila Prabhupada in the form of body. Oh. Your first job should be to make sure that everyone of the devotees in your zone of management is reading regularly our literatures and discussing the subject matter seriously from different angles of seeing what good are many devotees if none of them are knowledgeable.
Thank you. So some strong statement here. Every one of the devotees in your zone, everyone. And what they should do, reading regularly and discussing the subject matter seriously from different angles of vision. In other words, a deep absorption in the meaning, a deep dialogue on the meaning of the books, not just, okay, gone through. Huh? One more. This is the difference between reading and studying in English. Reading, looking at something written and grasping what it says, just like you're doing now. You're looking at something written, you know what it means. Now, studying applies one's mind purposefully to the acquisition of knowledge, understanding, or memorization of a subject. So it's a deeper effort. It's a different mood. Not just get the meaning, but trying to memorize, trying to assimilate, trying to imbibe. One more. Would you like to read that?
If you want to stay in Krishna consciousness, you will have to develop firm faith in Guru and Shastra. Therefore, you must study my books very scrutinizingly, follow the 4 regulative principles very strictly, and chant 16 rounds daily, avoiding the 10 offenses. Don't take this movement as something cheap. Letter to Shrutadev, 30th October 76.
If you want to stay in Krishna consciousness, so Srila Prabhupada says that these things are kind of necessities if we wants to stay in Krishna consciousness.
You must all study very scrutinizingly all of the books, so that when the need arises, you can repeat in your own words their purport.
Yes, this is another function of reading. It's not only for our purification and understanding, but to be able to function as teachers to others, so that when the need arises, we can repeat in our own words the purport. How many of you were at Radheshyam Prabhu's class this morning? Okay. So obviously, it was obvious that this person is not doing just a occasional reading of Srila Prabhupada books. And certainly, it was obvious that he did not just cram a few verses before the class. It's a lifetime, it's decades of absorption, memorization, study, and when the need arises, he can present in his own words. In his case, very colorful words, rich of analogies, metaphors, even humorous interludes. Okay, so let's go to the second page for those who follow the direction. Move to the second page. And this is the same exercise, this time in connection with Srila Prabhupada books. Okay, one minute more on this, 1 minute more. I see some of you are still actively writing. Some of you are actively writing on the 4th page. There are always people ahead of their times. Okay. Next. Who likes to read this? Vakkinandam Prabhu. Can we run with the mic? Can we run with the mic?
One need only chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Except the remnant of first off offer to Krishna. Have some discussion on books like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and engage oneself in deity worship. These 4 things will make one happy. Bhagavad Gita 13:8-12 purport.
So here we have Srila Prabhupada doing Abhishek to Krishna Balaram. Without answering, raise your hand if you know where this photo was taken. Without answering, who knows where this photo was taken? Raise your hand if you know. The question is, those of you who know or think they know where the photo was taken, raise your hand. Aniruddha Prabhu. Huh? New Mayapur, Nouvelle Mayapur in France. You've been there? Acha, okay. So one more quote.
The devotees are recommended to meditate on the deity worship in the temple. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 2, Text number 13, purport.
Srila Prabhupada said, these are the most beautiful Gornitai in the whole of ISKCON. Where are they? Huh? Yes? No. It's in the US. What city? Huh? New Jersey? Well, close. Huh? Huh? Manhattan? No. Huh? Laguna Beach? No. That's not close to New Jersey, by the way. Yes? Chicago? No. Yes? Baltimore. Okay, so deity worship, please go to the 3rd page. Those of you who are not on the 4th, 5th, or 6th page, go to the 3rd page. Do a little meditation, self-reflection, self-evaluation.
like as a general secretary, I do not do myself.
Uh-huh.
But
Yeah,
I may-
no, good point, good point. See, again, the relation with deity worship may mean different things to different people. Thank you for bringing it up. Some of you have personal deities, Shalagram Shilas, Govardhan Shilas. Some of you have. Some of you live in a temple. Some of you are in charge of a temple, so also in charge of deity worship. Some of you may live near a temple, and some of you may have their personal deities at home. So, whatever form of Archa Vigra or whatever form of Archana are you involved or connected with, rate that. So it may not be meaning you going on the altar. It may mean you go and see the deities. How attracted you are, how interesting for you, how stimulating for you, or just more or less a duty. So whatever form of Archana are you involved with, rate that. Couple of minutes more. Okay, so bringing that to a close, we'll move to the next phase, which is you choose someone in the room and feel free to move to another table. Choose someone in the room you feel comfortable sharing. And take some time sharing about the three aspects: chanting japa, reading books, deity worship. Now, you don't have, as I said, you don't have to show if you don't feel comfortable. If you don't feel comfortable, you don't have to show what you wrote, you don't have to show your rating, but at least you can share. Share about this exercise, what it meant for you, what did you discover today about you and your sadhana bhakti. So take some time. We'll have some time, huh? Today is kind of a relaxed morning, huh? Huh? Well, in the sense, this is really a time for us. Huh? It's a time for us to take a look at us, especially this first part. So choose someone you feel comfortable with and share. First page, second page. You don't have to show necessarily, but show. Tell the person what you felt you learned in this exercise. Some determination, some commitment came up with. So I would like everyone to pair up. You don't have to move from the table, but feel free to move from the table. And it's, again, this is a pair. It's a pair. 2 people. Dyed, if you prefer. What's up?
They say, why are you wasting your time? They want to, I should share my.
I didn't get why.
I was sharing my problem with him. He said, no, why you are, we should share with him. I can share it
With who?
to you. With
You want to share with me? Sure. I mean, sir, Maharaj. Who would like to have a little more time? Raise your hand if you like a little more time. Okay. 2 minutes? 3 minutes? 5 minutes? 5 minutes? 3, 5, 5. 5 minutes. Okay, 5 minutes.
I have discussed Japa. Reading book.
Hare Krishna. So, who would like to share something with the whole group? Some insight, some observation. Of course, we understand this sharing is private and confidential. So if you want to share, I need your silence now. I need your silence now. I need your silence now. So anybody wants to share with the whole group something. Of course, don't share anything private. Like, he told me at night he eats always so much, so his japa is very drowsy. Don't share that. But something that is meant for you. Or if you have a question for the whole group.
Well, one of the things that we were discussing is that, you know, sometimes as leaders there's just not enough time because there's so many responsibilities.
Excuse me. Let's give full attention. These devotees are taking the courage to share with all of you. So let's give the respect of full attention when people share.
So sometimes there's just not enough time because the level of service or the commitment to service and the members of our respective communities. I know for me, what goes down, what always falls to the side is reading, very, very honestly, like the studying of the scripture. But one thing as a possible solution that we were both thinking about is a support network in this regard. Like, you know, there's many leaders in this room, and thanks to yesterday, we're all in touch with each other through either through WhatsApp or this discussion groups and forums and stuff. That you know, like you know, reveal your mind and accept advice, and you know, it's something that we can all do for each other, so that we can hold these three aspects stronger.
So you're saying some support system,
a support system
would be helpful.
Yeah, and it's I know for me it would help a lot. I'm younger, so I see, you know, I get a lot of things come on me, and it's sometimes it's you know, you want to read. I take shelter in chanting, but sometimes you don't have time for everything else. So it's nice to be able to speak to a peer or somebody that can help push you along in this way in a nice manner, who understands what you're going through.
Now, we may or may not immediately organize from the GBC College, but you feel free to approach anyone and say, Prabhu, Maharaj, can you help me? Can I write to you? Okay, so feel free. Since you're so sincerely bringing this up, feel free to take a step. So Rishi Kumar Prabhu, Devakinandan Prabhu.
So this point that we've discussing, the problem that comes about is there was this newspaper group, Times of India, which had a byline, leader guards the reader. So the leader guards the reader. The leader guards the reader. He's a guard, G-U-A-R-D. The leader guards the reader. So
I didn't get it, sorry.
The leader guards the reader. G-U-A-R-D-S, guards.
Guards.
Yeah, guards.
Oh, guards. The leader guards
the reader.
The reader.
Reader. So the problem that comes across is when you're going from lecture to lecture rather than scripture to scripture. Because people invite you for lectures, you have to read for the lecture. You may read and give a decent class. From memory, you will chant a few shlokas. And then people impose scholarship on you. And then you believe them. And then finally you go back and look at your own kitty in terms of what you have studied, then it's empty. So then the problem that comes about is, at times there is a fear that when one takes up more responsibilities, even as a zonal secretary, and part of the responsibility is to improve the study of the people in the zone, how does one set an example? And on top of that, the responsibilities also which come together with this zonal secretary service. Or any such service as one takes up. So, which is why we were thinking of this together, and both of us have the same kind of issues in many ways. Also people with negative energy coming to you and then pouring out their emotions, and then you are supposed to absorb all that. And if you don't have the Shastra Chakshu, you cannot philosophize appropriately. So then, I know we have to make up friendships here and take, and there are many people here who are already guiding me, but I'm still thinking that if there is some way the system can itself institutionalize reading. We were discussing it earlier that unfortunately, fortunately, one good thing that Akshay Patra group, the Ritviks do in Bangalore is that in the morning they have a half an hour to 40 minutes reading session in the morning program. It's part of the morning program. If, I don't know if it's there still, it used to be there. If there is some way we can institutionalize that, it could be coming at a higher level, maybe that will be very, very helpful, because nobody has to tell us to complete our rounds in the morning or to attend Guru Puja. But study is always left to voluntary effort. So if there is some way it can be institutionalized, that may be helpful, apart from the pushing.
Thank you. Anybody likes to address this? Any idea? To address specifically these points? So we'll take Devakinandan Prabhu on this, what Rishi Kumar Prabhu said, institutionalized reading, or how to address the challenge of a leader, especially a leader who is expanding his service and his responsibility, how to find the time, the inspiration to also focus on Shastra. So we'll have Devakinandan Prabhu, Gopal Guru Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Kaunteya Prabhu. This was like opening, you showed a mirror. Frankly.
Sorry?
It's very emotional for me.
Achha.
It was showing a mirror for me. The whole thing is like showing a mirror for me. I was talking to Anuruddha Prabhu about chanting. When I was building Kanpur, those days I had taken a vow to not eat any grain till I finish my 16 round or chant 25 round. But after temple was built, lethargy started. So I do chant 10 round for my morning walk and 6 round before I go to sleep, like a struggle after. Other thing that while chanting, morning time is very peaceful time for everything. Good idea also comes. Management wise, good idea come that time. So the bead stands there or keeps moving but no chanting. This morning, one devotee and me, we were just discussing about this whole thing. And I told, hey, yesterday I felt like moving out from here. It was just going over my head. So whole morning we were just talking about this thing. So although we chanted, but just it's not chanting. So that was, I was talking to Anuruddha Prabhu, the reflection on chanting. And I can really thank you for showing this mirror, and I promise I'll finish my round early morning, no matter what happens. As far as reading concerned, yes, like yesterday you were saying, you showed a 3 plant, the 3 plant is showed in the picture. Initial state of our Krishna consciousness. Those days, like we were reading so much, doing 1 chapter Bhagavad Gita, 1 chapter Bhagavatam, reciting a sloka, memorizing a sloka, young age. And due course of time, management wise, it is down. Now it is email time. So a lot of email reading. There are also a scripture, they quote a lot of Prabhupada saying and this thing. But again that has slacked. And as Rishi Kumar Prabhu rightly said, that when we have program, we do read, study, and we give nice class. And say, oh Prabhu, such a wonderful class you gave, such a wonderful class. And we become mesmerized. Wow, I am a great devotee, I am just giving him class. But fact is that I just read before giving class, not that anything is there in my head. So this is really good to have association. So on that point, I made a point for improvement that when I go back, whether in Juhu or Kanpur or anywhere in my zone, all the leader between 1 to 4 when temple is closed, we'll, if there's no engagement or anything, but we just make a system that all the leader, whoever can come, take a section of from Chaitanya Charitamrita or Gita or Bhagavad, read for half an hour, make your note and share what we are doing right now, like that. And Anuruddha Prabhu said that his Guru Maharaj said, whatever you read, write one line every day. So when you write one line, then it becomes 2 lines, then 3 lines, and that will become habit. So that's very good. I've had deity worship concern. I'm not a pujari from the day one. It's not a cup of my tea. But I do go every day for Mangala Arti. Anuruddha Prabhu said that darshan is also deity worship. I go for Sandhya Arti. I make compulsory to go Sandhya Arti and make devotee to come Sandhya Arti and darshan Arti. And I do observe, if something, sometime here, there, like I was telling him that in Kanpur, they put peacock feather to Nityanand Prabhu and Chaitanya also. So I called the head pujari and I said, don't concoct something new thing. And then we do have a regular meeting with the pujaris. We go over a standard what we have right now and check with deity ministry standard. But yes, there are many things on deity worship which I need some help. I need some help. But yes, you made a good point that if not here, among here, you can choose a friend where you can share. He's my natural friend, but he's in, Australia. So, but anyway, I'll choose somebody else. Thank you once again.
Thank you very much for sharing, Devakinandan Prabhu. We can have a little more sharing, if you like, after the break. So we'll have more sharing. We'll address or at least touch on some of these points. And so we'll take more sharing after the break. So we'll go for a 15-minute break. 15-minute break. Hare Krishna, welcome back. Now, this seems to be an issue, a challenge for leaders, for senior devotees. Also during the break, one of you came to me, said, yes, it's a challenge to read books. I would like to ask, I hope at least some of you feel not only enthused, but manage to find the time, the inspiration, and carve the time from the schedule to give quality time to the books, not only in preparation of a lecture. It's like a regular. So I would like those of you who are in that space to share something. How do you do? Parabhakti Prabhu.
I want to share a personal problem, that because my main service is to be involved in communication, after the temple president of my temple, but involved in communication, that means that the lifestyle is very, disorderly, yes, it's very disorderly, especially disorderly, so it's very disorderly, the lifestyle. So, yeah, something like that. And so even if if I had time to read Srila Prabhupada books, sometimes I have no energy, because I know that, to go into the Srila Prabhupada book, need attention. You cannot just read as a normal book. So sometimes I'm struggling to find the motivation and the energy to read the books, even if I feel that I need. So this is a problem.
So I was looking for a solution, I got more problems, but that's okay, I guess. So
to me it's relevant. To me, it's relevant.
No, it's for, no, of course. No, I mean, I want to thank all of you. I mean, this is very powerful that you share your heart, share your challenge. It's very important. Anybody who likes to give some glimmer of hope, something? How do you manage? How do you manage? I mean, again, you may not feel you are perfect, okay? Maybe you're reading and your rating maybe is not a 10, but maybe you had similar challenge and you did manage. So we'll want to hear also from you.
Sometimes expanding our service and climbing the ISKCON corporate ladder is actually an enemy of our spiritual life. And while we're apparently taking on more responsibility, we're actually reducing our capacity to care for ourselves and to care for others because we're weakening our spiritual practices. So one of the practical approaches that I had to take because my health was being destroyed by trying to do too much, I had to stop doing things. All of the things that I was doing I could do individually, but I couldn't do all of them together. So realistically, when we're stretched, sometimes, or at least my realization was, I had to stop doing so much to create the time for my own spiritual life. So there may not be any tricks when you haven't got enough time to juggle all of the balls that you're trying to juggle. So you've got to put some of the balls down so that at least you can keep your spiritual life functional.
So that's one way. Minimize responsibilities or decrease the responsibilities.
Concentrate on the things that you need to do, and some you may have to
forgo. Thank you. Aniruddha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. There's two aspects. The first one is, I guess, a prevention, and then the other one is more of a, what's about our current situation. As an example, I wanted to do a Bhakti Shastri course, and I did it through the Bhaktivedanta, the Radhadesh one, the
Bhaktivedanta
College. And that course, it's like bang, 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 bang. You have to do this, you have to do this, and you have to do that. Now, because it was a prioritization, it was a priority of mine, despite the fact that I worked a full-time job, have all my services and have the kids to look after, it was a priority of mine. So I managed to, I guess this is a key point, it was a priority for me. So I managed to organize everything around so I could actually get between 1 or 2 hours of study in a day. But then when that course wasn't on anymore, it wasn't a priority, so then it went to nothing. So I guess one of the concepts is priority, is making sure that it's actually seen as a priority, because like with anything, if we have a priority, for example, to do this, to do that, we'll make it work, no matter what it is. But it's just, if we don't see it as a priority, we'll do other things. And now the next thing is, I guess in regards to having a chat with Devikanandan Prabhu about some of the things that we go through, I found a trend of developing good habits. So, for example, Prabhu has, since the age of 13, always been studying the Shastra, and so it's kind of natural for him to read the books. For me, when I was in Melbourne for 3 or 4 years, I got up at 3:15 every morning to do the Mangalarti milk sweet trays. I specifically did that so that I actually wake up in the morning. So now, even though working and all the rest of it, it's just kind of natural for me to want to wake up in the morning, because even if I get put out of balance, for me, the natural thing is to wake up early in the morning just because of good habits. Same thing with Prabhu, good habits in studying. So with our brahmachari ashrams, we have a minimum of 2 hours of reading a day. And so what happens is when they start going into the next ashram, you see that although they're courting, getting jobs, whatever it is, they've got this natural thing of wanting, just inherently wanting to read Srila Prabhupada's books. So developing good habits early on, and then if we're already the old dogs where we can't be taught new tricks, maybe...
Old swans. It's called old swans. Not all dogs,
Okay.
old swans.
Old swans, sorry. Sorry, it's just a New Zealand team. It's just reprioritizing, so making sure we have reading as our priority, which can be hard, but that's up to us.
Thank you. I wanted to share an analogy. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the analogy. When you say priority, some of you know the analogy of the glass, a large glass, like a jar. Now, what happens is that if you fill it, you start filling with water, then it just fills up. Nothing goes in anymore, right? But say you have, you start with rocks, big rocks. So you put the big rocks first. And it's filled, but still you can pour sand, right? A thin, small, so the sand will go down and still will be filled. Then even when it's filled with sand, you can still pour some water, right? So similarly, it's a question of priority. What you want to put first in your day. I mean, you can only 24 hours. It's not going to become bigger. So Gopal Bhatta Prabhu told me how once Tamakrishna Maharaj told him, as a friend, he said, look, you're going to chant your rounds anyway. So why don't you read first in the morning? First thing, start with reading. So at least you get your reading done. And not only that illuminates your whole day, but it's done. So, because you're going to chant your rounds, you're not going to not finish your 16 rounds. So if you say, if your first rock is reading, then of course there's another big rock, a japa, but it's there. If you start filling up with other things, and you put the sand, the routine work, and and then you don't have any more space for the reading rock. See what I'm saying? So it's like, again, it's a question of priorities. You have the old PPT?
No, this kind of PPT, the same thing.
Sure. Can you put it on? Yes, the old PowerPoint on this. Thank you. Yes. So we'll enjoy for a moment the PPT. You want to say something?
This is the one which you said just now.
Yeah.
The chanting is remaining undone. Chanting and reading are all outside the jar. You see. Because the small powdered sand is put in the front, you see. And instead of that, now it is, I'll show you. Effective time management lies in identifying the big rocks. So the big rocks are remaining outside, which means chanting, reading, hearing, all that is remaining. The smaller ones have occupied the jar, you see. Yeah. Now first you put the big rocks first, and then when you put the smaller one, they will fit into the gaps. And then when you put the powdered sand, they will also fit into the gaps. Then you can pour water. Then everything fits now. Same, the same jar. Okay.
Thank you, thank you, and thank you, Giriraj Maharaj, who gave this example also. Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you. Maybe many of you, because you are more senior than me, heard this or know this before, but most of us have obstacle, time. We have many things to do, so difficult to find time for reading. what Prabhu said, that wake up very early in the morning and start with reading. I don't know how many of you Radha Krishna Prabhu, he's a Hungarian devotee, becoming a GBC, we'll see when. And
He's a graduate of the college,
Yes.
first year. Yeah.
He found it's a science of sleeping, and he's practicing for 2 years, sleeping only 4.5 hours a day or 5 hours a day. But it's a science how to do this. There's a time when you have to sleep at night and during the day. But you need to have a good schedule for this and very determined to doing this. But because as Parabhakti Prabhu said, going sleep at night very late, so difficult to wake up in the morning. But there's also, as I said, a science for sleeping less, so we can look after it, and then we can have more time for reading. And we have devotees.
We should probably start teaching it at the college. What do you think? I mean, that's a-
2-3 devotees are practicing in our country, and they are very successful with this. And other thing is, what time they go to sleep? 10, and then sleeping 4 hours, wake up, reading, chanting, and then they find time during the day. But there are different times in the day that are very useful for sleeping, and those times where not gives you energy. So we just have to know which are those times, and it also can help. Other thing is just, as Prabhu said, I think for reading, as someone said, make a priority in the temple. They give 1 hour or 40 minutes in the morning reading session. I don't know who said this, but someone said this. Yes. And in our temple, we made a priority that every second week, our board meeting, we have 3 hours reading and discussion on Prabhupada's books. Srila Shivaram Maharaj gave us this 4th generation, which is coming from the GBC, 4th generation. And
the challenges
yes,
of
challenges.
the 4 generations
Yes.
of the first 4 generational leaderships. Yeah.
So he warned us. He warned us that it can be a big difficulty. And we started from last year, this every second week discussing, because we found we are leaders. We made we made decisions. Decisions.
We take decisions, yes.
And it has to be by Prabhupada's teachings. So we have difficulties to reading individually, but we started to read together and discuss together. And not just reading and discussing, but there's a way how we going on. There are 3-4 different aspects why we are reading, and we are finding what gives this chapter, what gives for me as a person, what give us as a leader, what give us for the temple devotees, what give for the community.
So
like
basically,
this.
like Srila Prabhupada was saying, seeing from different angles.
Yes, yes.
Not just one angle.
So the main thing is that we made this as a priority, as a team.
Uh-huh.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Devakinandan Prabhu. Question to Prabhu.
Yeah, you were saying sleep during the daytime. Well, I will warn you, according to naturopathy, one should not sleep during daytime. Maybe in young age you are okay, but old age you will develop a chronic disease. Sleeping in daytime is not good. According to naturopathy, which I follow very much, sleeping between 9 to 12, 3 hours sleep is like 6 hours sleep. 12 to 3 is like 3 hours sleep. 3 to 6 like 1.5 hours sleep. After 6 o'clock morning sleeping, 0 effect. So best time to sleep is our timing. 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, get up 2 o'clock morning, no problem.
Okay, a short reply, and then we'll take that offline, because I mean obviously we'll take it offline, and yes, a short reply.
There's a whole science behind it. Of course, you have experience yourself. That's the best science, your experience. But there's a whole science. Scientists did this, and there are people who are practicing it, young and old age people also.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to share something inspired by this about leaders coming together and discussing. I was once at the Russian national councils. And as you know, many of you are members of national councils. Sometimes these national councils meeting are quite practical, let's put it like this, managerial, okay? Properties, leaders, this, that, problems, no, yeah. But I saw something very, very interesting, very inspiring. Bhaktivedanta Maharaj, His Holiness, he had all this, about 20 regional secretaries, big, big leaders, you know, some of them big also physically, you know, imposing, you know, big Russian leaders. And he put all of them studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. There was like 12 days of meeting, like 10 days were studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. And they had also, they had to present a lecture, they had to study Bhagavatam, and then there was also a test. Huh? So you could see this big imposing Russian leader studying. Come on, there is a test after 2 days, come on. So it's really interesting because I never saw something like this. I mean, some of you have the power to create an agenda. Imagine as if our national meetings could be like that, absorbed in the scripture, absorbed in Shastra. And then, of course, one advantage is that everything seen through the lenses is much more clear. You see through a much broader perspective that, you know, the problem here, the problem there, the temple, you know, and the leaders give example in that way. Talking about leaders, how many of you were at the SGGS last month? SGGS, the Sangha of Guru, GBCs, and Sannyasis. You were there? You were there, Marsh? You couldn't make it. Okay, you were there? No, you came after. Okay, 2 of you were there. How did you like it? Okay, so there were 3 days in which all the GBCs, all the gurus, Diksha gurus, sannyasis came together from all over the world. There are about 80 of them in Mayapur. And one thing was discussed was the 4 generations, the challenges of the first 4 generations of leadership. By 4 generations means the founder Acharya, his disciples, the disciples of the disciples, and the disciples of the disciple of the disciples. And without getting into details, because we will talk about that more later, basically the tendency in many communities and movement is that by the 3rd generations, the instructions of the founder Acharya becomes a little bit diluted, lost, fragmented, diverted. And we see also this in ISKCON. Many young devotees read so many other books, maybe they don't read Srila Prabhupada books, and many other reasons. So after a lot of work, group work, and so on, the Sangha decided 2 things. One was about creating a representative body of senior devotees who could help the GBC making better decisions, checks and balances. And there will be a proposal in October to the GBC. The GBC Organizational Development Committee is going to work and present a proposal how this representative body could function. And the other was creating a strategy for helping the whole movement reading Srila Prabhupada books. So obviously during the 3 days, the details were not discussed, but the basic framework of the steps, the process is there. So this is just to inform you that the top spiritual leaders of our community came together and identified this, the reading of Srila Prabhupada books, how to help the whole movement, as a very, very top priority. We have Radheshyam Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Oftentimes our managers and leaders are very busy and they are not able to take out time on a regular basis, like every day, 1 hour, 2 hours. Although they may make a plan. So I just wanted to suggest 2 quick tips. One tip is, there is one phenomenon called as queuing. Queue means, for example, every day after lunch I will read half an hour. If you make it like that, so after prasad we take the book and read. This is forcing a habit in the beginning, which eventually becomes a second nature. So many medical doctors have found out that any habit you attach to either breakfast, lunch, or dinner, that becomes a regular habit. So this is one way. Yeah.
Sorry. You want to repeat more?
You can tell. You can tell.
You speak English also. Please more slowly.
So yeah. Any habit you attach to a particular activity which you do every day. See, we don't miss our lunch. We don't miss dinner. Along with that, if you attach one activity like, say, chanting 2 rounds after prasad while walking, or reading half an hour of Prabhupada's book after lunch or after dinner, you just do it for a week. They say that 51 days if you do, after that, imperceptibly this will become your habit. You have to cross 50 days in a stretch. So this is one thing I wanted to suggest. And another thing is, I myself found myself in a soup of too much of management and email replying and everything. So at one time I took out 2 years and came here to GV, Govardhaneko village, to join the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeetham. 5 days I would be here and 2 days I will go to Pune, because Pune is next door to Mumbai. So on the weekends I would have something like 8 or 10 programs lined up within Saturday, Sunday. When I come here, my full focus was studying. But later I found that after my 2 years, I wanted some of the senior devotees from Pune to come here also and study like me 2 years. I asked about 25 of them. They said it is impossible. We cannot take out time. Then I had suggested an alternative solution, which I thought I'll suggest here. Generally, the leaders, managers, they need management food also. It is not that they can just stop management and get into Bhagavatam always, because the mind will scream like anything, because managers are used to managing. Therefore, we need a blend of Bhagavatam study and management. In order to do that, we instituted a Bhakti Vaibhava course, which goes on for 2 years. Monthly, only 4 days. We take out time. So in Pune, 150 brahmacharis are attending it. And in Kanpur and Calcutta, 3 places in India, I travel regularly. Alternate months I go. The GV preachers are also coming and teaching in Kanpur and Calcutta. I go 1 month, they go 1 month. Like that we go. So 4 days in a month, per day, morning 3 hours, evening 3 hours we do. It comes to how much? 24 hours in 4 days. And that is it. And rest of the month, they do their administration, management and services. But these 4 days give them energy and boost for the whole month, because we complete, how many chapters? 8 chapters in 4 days we complete, Bhagavatam. In 4 days. And then rest of the time they can, like a cow gulps a lot, then she sits in one place, keeps ruminating it. Then after ruminating, it gives milk. So Prabhupada gave this example. You gulp down Bhagavatam, then while managing, keep contemplating on what you heard and everything. Then giving milk is equal to preaching. Yeah.
Why don't you do one thing? Why don't you write an email, since you love emails as far as I understand. So you write an email with these 2 ideas, and then we'll circulate to everybody? Huh? Okay, can you do that? Thank you so much. Any further sharing on anything? We focus a lot on reading, anything on japa, anything, also on reading, something more you like to share on reading or deity worship? Yes, Devakinandan Prabhu, and then we'll take Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. For example, in Singapore, the congregation has no brahmacharis, so everyone is working, and Singapore working hours are typically from 9 in the morning till about 8:30 in the evening. So we tend to come back about 9 or 10 o'clock. So the challenge to read Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, to even complete the rounds of chanting is actually quite acute. One thing personally I found is this principle of time. In material nature, if you don't use time for Krishna, time steals you. But if you try to put aside time for Krishna, then actually you are stealing time instead of time stealing you. So one principle that personally I found very helpful is that if you really look at your life for the whole day, you find that there are a lot of pockets of time where our mind is actually drifting. And in those spaces, if you fill them up with Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita, the sum total of it for a day actually amounts to good quality. May not amount to full quantity, but it amounts to good quality. So one thing that we do is that before we leave for work in the morning, after we do substantive amount of rounds at least, is to read one verse from, say, Srimad Bhagavatam. We will read it in such a way, either personally or in groups, because some devotees stay close by, so they come together, they read it before they leave for work. So keep a handbook or a study book ready, because studying is always useful. You can read a verse, and after reading it, make sure we read it in such a way that the synonyms, the translation, and the purport are all well read. And then just write down in your notebook, which is only for Bhagavatam study, 2 or 3 points from Prabhupada's purport that inspires us. And after writing it down, for the rest of the day, when we're in the bus or when we take a break between the work, we just need to contemplate on that verse. By the end of the day, actually that verse becomes very much a part of our life, because that's the third aspect of study that's very important. One is, of course, to hear, the other is to repeat, but the third is actually to seriously try to understand. So contemplation actually doesn't need a great amount of time. What it needs is an investment into whatever amount of time you need. So we have a diary, for example, or a notebook only on Bhagavatam, a notebook only on Bhagavad Gita, because the same process is repeated before you sleep or in the evening. And then you keep one notebook for verses that actually inspire you when you hear classes. So that's what you call your verse book. There will always be a verse that will inspire a devotee in any part of the world. And that verse is like Krishna jumping out of Bhagavatam. It touches your life because you're going through a particular period of time, and Krishna is very kind. You hear a lecture and a verse just touches your heart. So have a separate verse book, a book just for these verses. And daily, if we just go back to them whenever we have the time, you find when you add it up, you would have, by Krishna's mercy, spent quite a bit of time in study, though it doesn't appear to be so initially.
Thank you very much. So one more sharing, and then we'll move to something else.
Hare Krishna. Leaders actually, which I have realized in my life, that we do management and leadership, but later on we feel alone also.
Please, let us give full attention when somebody is sharing. Of course, some of you are taking notes. That's very good on what people are saying, but let's give full attention to what people are sharing. We might just need what they're saying.
So what I have felt that the leaders, as soon as they grow as a managerial post, they become alone. And at that time, they are guiding many people, they are a role model for many. But being a leader, people does not come to very close to them, they does not discuss things, and like personal things also, like how my sadhana is or this and that. Because people see them as an ideal, that he is our ideal, he must be doing everything right. So at that position, I was thinking that, I was sharing with Prabhuji also, that leaders must have a one good friend, or many, though constantly focus on each other's sadhana, so that they can share also, they can become a good friend. And nowadays, like we have a phones, WhatsApp, one can, every day, one can update to each other that how much round I have chanted at what time, till what time. And he can take inspiration from each other also. And then second thing is reading about, like we can, 30 minutes I have read this book, 4 points I have mentioned also, which touched my heart, 3-4 points which we have. And by doing this, I think it will be really very much going to give help of each other.
So like a buddy system.
Yeah.
Buddy mentors or buddy system.
Yeah.
Do you have one?
We have started, and actually I'm starting, like I was asking Prabhuji whether you are living abroad, but still by WhatsApp we are very close. So we can, every day we can do this thing. We can ask each other that how, if we are chanting extra round, then we will message that 4 rounds I have chanted extra, 10 rounds I have chanted extra. If we are reading, then what we have read, and this type of things I was thinking.
Okay, I mean, that's an idea. That's an idea right on the table. Create a mentorship level, a buddy system, share what you decide to share. That's one way to go. Thank you very much. So we'll move to the next part of our morning. You have a question? Is on this or? Okay, so then we'll for me. I'm honored.
This is about the presentation you gave on sadhana and all those things. Can we get that PPT?
Yes, of course. Whatever is mine is yours.
So you can send to everybody or just?
Sure, no problem. I generally, whatever presentation I have, I can share with everybody at the end. No problem. I can share also other things if you want. Yeah, yes. Thank you for that. Okay, talking about the presentation, the next part, remember there is a fourth page. That's more like your role as a leader in promoting standards. So far we have spent a couple of hours in Devakinandan Prabhu's words, looking at the mirror. Beautiful image. We took a mirror, let's see what you see. You like it, you don't like it, you like partially, let's see what to do. Now we look at our service in promoting these standards in the different parts of the world where you work. So let's start with a couple of quotes. Who likes to read that?
The GBC can supervise that things are going on. The first management is that each and every member in the temple is chanting 16 rounds regularly and following the regulations. That is our spiritual strength. That must be executed. Conversation with the GBC Los Angeles, 25th May 1972.
Supervise, just as in zonal supervisor. And please obviously remember, zonal supervisor is the same work of the GBC zonal secretary. There is no inclusion of the international aspect. The zonal supervisor doesn't have to attend the global meetings every year and so on. But the job on that zone is exactly the same.
GBC member means they will see that in every temple, these books are very thoroughly being read and discussed and understood and applied in practical life. Lecture on Srimad Bhagavatam 292, Melbourne, 5th April 1972.
Okay, so would you like to cover the fourth page where it says, the service description of the zonal supervisor includes demonstrate competence to introduce, promote, and sustain spiritual standards. What skills, personal behavior, or mindset would you like to acquire or improve to be able to do this service better? So what could you do to increase your capacity? And then finish the whole page, describe 3 aspects of spiritual standards that could be improved in your zone, community, city, or temple, and what could you do to improve these 3 aspects?
areas and improve.
I mean, these are areas that you feel need improvement. And this is what you can do to improve them.
Like, just like chanting, studying.
Something like that. You know, if you say chanting.
There is explanation here.
Means, see, here is the problem. Say, for instance, you see devotees don't get up anymore. Okay? So the area of improvement is getting up. And yes, what could you do to improve this? Or to preach about this, or to make a change?
Yes, of course, sir. But explanation is what?
More than explanations of what you could do to improve. What you could do. Okay? 1 minute more, 1 minute more. And now, you can also share on this. You can be the same person, can be someone else. Take a few minutes to share on this. What could you do to improve your capability to promote standards and specific standards you see that could be improved and what you could do to improve them? So you can share with the same person, or it could be a different pair. I leave it to you. One more minute, and we'll wind it up. Hare Krishna. So let's bring that to a close. Obviously, feel free to continue the dialogue during Prashad. Okay, let's bring that to a close. Any sharing, anything you like to share with the whole group? I'm sure the group will give full attention, full undivided attention. Yes, Prabhu.
Sorry, do you want to speak? So this thought was that to change culture in a zone, specifically with regard to congregation. Now, with regard to temple resident devotees, it might be easier. With regard to congregation, one of the challenges that we face is they somehow have it in their head that to come once a week for morning program is a big achievement. That's enough. So somehow or the other, if we inculcate a culture, like in Delhi, there are some 12, 13 temples. In some temples, it is there. Majority of the congregation leaders at least come. But there are several other temples, it doesn't happen. So one of the thoughts that came up, and I bounced it off, we had a group discussion. And they also agreed that they can do it in their zone also, is that we just tell them that be there for the japa session. Just be there for the japa session from say 5:30 to 7:15. And either they will get hooked to the next program, which is the Bhagavatam class, they will stay over, or they will try to come a little earlier, which is for Mangalarati. So we're not forcing them to take over the whole program. At least take on the whole program. At least you start small, like we tell newcomers to start with 2 rounds, etc. Similarly, we just say at least ensure that all the congregation leaders are there for the japa session. So then that can gradually change the culture in the zone.
How do you like this idea? You like? Invite them for Parsha. Don't demand the whole program, but demand for Parsha, and then may expand. Thank you. Thank you. Devakinandan Prabhu. And then we'll hear from Maharaj.
To mix with devotees.
Mix
with the
with
devotees in
devotees.
general. Such as go in Brahmachari ashram, see how they are doing, things like that. Chant together. Kirtan, dance together. From Bhagavatam class, taking prasadam, reading together, doing kar seva. Kar seva, you know kar seva?
Kar seva.
Kar seva means
physical service together.
Clean the temple together, clean the kitchen together, cook one day with them, serve prasadam, anything physical. Otherwise, here in India, they think, oh, he president, he supreme personality or something, he cannot serve. So that kind of thing. To bring that, on their level. Doing kar seva, invite senior devotee time to time, and have seminar and things like that. And otherwise for first one, briefly describe the three.
The idea of how you can improve your capacity.
Yes, yes. So like workshop for japa, reading, question answer, and like what you understood, like one person read, other person. Just take one verse 5 devotees are there, let them speak out their realization of that verse. You know, so that way they get into this thing, plus they will also be, you know, preacher, that, you know, train them up for that. And then Harinam,
Harinam.
one and all, just go for Harinam. Weekly Harinam or something like
Nagar
that.
Sankirtan, mean
Yes.
outside, Harinam.
Yeah, here, the photo.
Oh, you want to go in Rome in Harinam?
No.
That's a good idea. I mean,
Something like that. Okay, what could you do to improve these 3 aspects? Sleep early morning, early.
Early
Get up-
morning.
No.
It was just a Freudian slip.
Sleep early, get up early morning. Like get up 2 o'clock. Say, you know, sleep 8 o'clock, get up 2 o'clock. Chant and encourage devotee to do things like that. I mean, for personal, I am doing that thing. Read 1.5 hour Srila Prabhupada book after breakfast or after lunch. Chant few round after dinner as advised by His Grace Rajasyam Prabhu.
We will always have to quote the authorities when you speak.
Do 1 chapter of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam recitation, part, we call part. Do part regularly. And then have kirtan in temple hall, like Akhand Kirtan, 24-hour Kirtan, or half-day Kirtan with all devotees. Just get devotee, do it.
Thank you, Prabhu. A lot of ideas, flowing ideas. Marsh.
Actually, the crux of the whole issue of spiritual standards rests on one point, that is late nights. Late nights. You know, the idea of sleeping 8 o'clock is a very romantic utopia for me, you know. Where is it possible? 8 o'clock, you know, even you mentioned 8 to, how? I mean, else you just have to give up preaching, just stay in the ashram, go to bed 8 o'clock, get up at 2 o'clock, and then preach all day. But who's there to listen to you if you want to preach in the afternoon or, you know, in the evening? People come back home by 8 o'clock in India, even in abroad, in other countries, they come very late. So really the whole thing is, if we want to encourage our congregation devotees also to rise early, what solution can we offer them for their late night? And even the brahmacharis living in the temple, the other full-time devotees living in the temple, they have to go out for preaching, they come back. You know, if you sleep very late and still get up early, you talked about 10 to 2 sleeping, right? But then you sleep in japa, you sleep in the class, you're dozing off all through the day every now and then in discussions, in meetings. You know, so we really have to work on this one thing. If we can crack it, then we'll have something substantial.
So that's the crux, basically, getting to bed in time.
Yes.
Thank you. Vishwavasu Prabhu.
I will say about one aspect, only one aspect. In some, very often we can see if grihasthas start to have a newborn child, not enough force and not enough energy and time for mother, sometimes father, to chant japa, to do good prasadam and read books. And in Ukraine there is a very interesting project. It is devotee care and devotee visiting. We are visiting the homes, apartments, and help the mothers with small children. Better to have 3 persons in command. We are coming and say, okay, for mother, relax, please. And one try to play with child, and second try to do cleanliness, and third go to kitchen and prepare some food.
So like support for mothers with very young children?
Yes.
And so friends go there, cook, clean, take care of the child.
Because very often young mother cannot chant 16 rounds. After initiation, it is not good. It is very interesting project. It's good training for teenager girls and for another women. It is very interesting.
Thank you. Very good support system. Maharaj.
As we are discussing about improving the standards in the temple, we have to be very practical because we see that when there is late night programs, generally devotees come back and go to sleep like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. And then they have to get up at 3 o'clock for Mangalarti. So they don't get enough rest, 6 hours rest at night. And then naturally Maharaj, Bhaktirasamrita Maharaj said that they will be dozing at the time of even sometimes at Mangalarti or sometimes in Bhagavatam class. So, and this is happening almost every day. That different temples, they have different preaching programs, sometimes public programs, sometimes house programs. So there is pressure every day. It may happen one day, okay, it can be adjusted, but it happens every day. So anyway, but we have to live with that because we have to do all these programs. But still, we have to encourage our devotees, at least temple devotees, and congregational devotees. I have seen, though we tell them to come for Mangalarti, Bhagavatam class, it is very difficult for them. Once they take initiation, they think they have become devotees and they don't have to do anything. So for coming for Mangalarti, very few devotees, they come for Mangalarti, and very few for Bhagavatam class. And what to speak of reading Prabhupada's books. I always encourage everyone to read Prabhupada's books, but they are busy with their business or they go to their office and they have no time. And sometimes even once in a week, it is very difficult for them to come to the temple. So this is a practical problem. But at least in our temple, what I think we can encourage our devotees to attend all the temple programs. In spite of doing late night programs, we cannot do anything about that. We encourage them to attend our temple programs like Mangalarti, sitting together and doing japa, and then Bhagavatam class. And as far as reading Srila Prabhupada's books is concerned, like some of the leaders also mentioned that like we are all sitting together for chanting japa, then we can specify a particular time in the temple. That can be different in different temples, but a particular time, so all the devotees that will be like self-study class. And they can sit together, they can even recite some verses of Bhagavad Gita or Bhagavatam, whatever they will study. Then they will study independently, but together they will study. And then they may discuss also at the end. So that will give encouragement to devotees for reading Prabhupada's books.
Similar to what Devakiranda Prabhu said, he was saying from 1 to 4, specific time, everybody together, reading individually. How many of you wants to comment, just to have a sense? Yes, Maharaj, Aniruddha Prabhu, Parabhakti Prabhu, and Chaitanya Avatari Prabhu probably will close with that.
In our temple, the temple president arranged that this Lagos temple, Nigeria, from 1 o'clock to 2. all the devotees in the temple come together. And then we study all the 4 books. It's regular for years. We have been doing this. And it's working. They help devotees to understand and do the reading which they cannot do individually. They are collectively doing it because we come together and have it. And 4 of us are doing the teaching. Also, in the places where the devotees have to have regular night programs, I will suggest don't eat in the program. It is late. You eat heavy prasadam, you are going to sleep late. Definitely, you are going to wake up late. It will show on the body. The body has not digested the food. So if you are going to have a late night program, please don't eat there. You should not eat beyond 5 o'clock. I'm sorry, this is my own style. And we know that we have slept little. In the morning, please don't sit down to chant. Sitting to chant is very good. It's very good, it's the best. But how best it is when I will sleep. Therefore, stand up or you move around. And so Prabhupada does that. He moves around. Like I saw some devotees in the morning are going around the temple. We should do that. If our priority is jap, we should work towards it. If we have been discussing planning, pioneer, planning what we want to do. If you don't plan it, we will not do it. So you should plan how I'm going to do my job tomorrow since I have slept late and I woke late. I should plan it. Then you will succeed. Because we are teaching. So I have the habit that anywhere I'm traveling, I always have a book with me. In the train, in the bus, a book. I always have a book with me. Anywhere I'm traveling, anywhere I'm going, there is always a book with me. Apart from the books inside the cell phone or whatever, I always have a book with me that I must read every day. It's my habit. So I read every day, and whatever comes, I will erase any obstacle that comes in because I have a book with me. So I'll read whenever there is time for me. So we should have a timetable for our life. If we want to be reading regularly and hearing regularly, we should have a timetable. We should have a time. From this time to this time, I should do my japa. I don't accept phone call before 10 o'clock in the morning. And I don't have my cell phone with me in the temple room. So if you call me before 10 o'clock, it's a missed call. I will call after when I finish. So in this way, my job is done early in the morning, and I have time to do my reading, apart from my study to go and teach Bhakti Sastri, Vrindavan, and Mayapur. I have time to do my regular sadhana and do my service. I attend to people also, answer my emails and WhatsApps every day. I do all these things after the completion of my job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One of the, just to build on what Maharaj was saying, in Melbourne we've got devotees who've been studying Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhav, they're now on their Bhakti Vedanta, and they study 2 nights a week. And so the course might take 4 years or 5 years to complete. But over that time, this is a habit that the congregation has been cultivated in doing, and so consequently, everybody is studying at one level or another. In fact, the joke is they're too busy doing their homework to do politics.
Acha.
Right? So I teach the teacher training courses 1 and 2 and the Bhakti Shastri training courses. So those places where they don't have that standard, then I try to teach teachers in those locations where that habit has, because in our community, the devotees work very well together. They're very, it's a strong community. And I believe it's because of that educational habit, if you like, that training. And so the idea is, you know, you don't have to do a Bhakti Shastri within a few months. It doesn't matter. It's just that regular commitment to
So
training
sign
and
people up into the courses, even if it takes more time, but it
Yep.
establish a very strong
And these devotees,
basis.
they've been studying together, some of them for 20 years now.
20 years.
Right? So that builds a huge strength in your communities.
Thank you so much.
So I think that there is a difference between the countries, no? Like, you know, the lifestyle is given a big impact also in your lifestyle, because if you want to go to preach in the Western country, you cannot plan this before 8 o'clock in the night or 9 o'clock in the night. So you have to move also in the space. That means that you have to come back very late. Sometimes means midnight, sometimes 1 o'clock in the night. So the point is that we can skip that, because if you really want to be active and to disseminate and to promote Srila Prabhupada teaching, you have to be where the people is. So that don't mean that everyone, any devotee, have to do this service, of course, no? Because anyone have to be the attitude of preaching, but not anyone can do that. But they can bring some difficulties, no? Because also the lifestyle of the people is like that. How to get early in the morning when the people they reach the house 7 or 8 o'clock in the night. Most of the people they do like that, in Europe, in America, or whatever it is. So if you really want to skip, I give you an example. When I was a brahmachari in the late 70s, no, and we had this program just to follow the concert of the rock star. Maybe you remember Conteya, no? We was following and distribute prasada, and we distributed a ton of prasada during that time, and we was always in the newspaper, in television, because we were doing these kind of activities. But you know, if you go, what it means that the devotee, they was up to 2 o'clock in the night, and after, just to have this kind of program. At a certain time, we decided to cancel this program because it was too much for the brahmachari, too much for the devotee. But the consequence arrived, because you know all the attention of the media went down because you were not there. So there's some practical issue, and that we have to deal with. So one practical question: how we can just find a way to be stable. I was discussing with Prabhu before that I suggest often to the devotee to design a chart of the 24 hours of the day, no? And hour by hours fill with what we are doing. So what you need? You need to sleep a certain time of hours, 6 hours, 4 hours, I don't know. Sometimes it depends on the person. You have to chant 2 hours rounds. You have to do this, and that. And if you feel this, after you found that some time is still there, that you are not utilizing. So that's what I wrote also here. What I feel that devotee or expert in how to manage the time give us advice or courses or workshop, because this will help us as a leader, but also we can share with the other devotee to improve the management of the time.
So time management, and again, one tool of time management, see exactly where the time goes during the day. Now, last comment we have from Chaitanya Avatari Prabhu.
I'm just trying to share, 6 months back we did a pilot project. 6 months back we did a pilot. Yeah. So it's basically addressing some of the concerns what we are discussing, like how devotees have odd time programs, And generally, the tendency, at least people who I'm seeing from an Indian context, is that they don't have the habit of reading because they do anything. But if you ask them to sit and read seriously, they can't do it. I'm no exception to that. That's how I started. So how do we inculcate and how to make these people regularly hooked onto the habit of reading Srila Prabhupada books? These days, common phenomena is that everybody have a smartphone. So we grouped all these trader business people who are, congregation, Maharaj was mentioning, and they come late night and they don't have time to do anything. So we just segmented them, and we introduced in the WhatsApp that all these people, we formed a group of 10 each. 10 people form one group, and every day, whatever be the day, and they have come to a common consensus that, say they would read in the night 10 to 10:30. So each of the members in the group, they just read a same book, say perfect question, perfect answer. They just read one page and they just put it in the group. It's a voice. So one person is actually reading, the others are hearing. They don't have time to read. Collectively, they're going to hear half an hour of Srila Prabhupada's teachings from perfect question, perfect answer. So I just read only one page, which takes 5 minutes. But as the benefit is that if 10 people are there, without their knowledge, they've been hearing Prabhupada for more than half an hour, 45 minutes. And it will start working wonders. And we're actually replicating slowly in many other locations too. So they get a taste of reading, they get a lot of realizations, and also they are anyway attached to their smartphones. So they anyway have to see various other messages. So they just at least just click what the other person is reading. And at the end of the day, one person acts as the coordinator to just send a small update or a feedback saying that how many people participated in today's study group. I get a report. So there are various groups like that, and it's pretty productive and effective. And one more, just want to add, that the late night programs, and we increasingly see this is a phenomenon again. So if we are in India, then there's different time zones. Then if somebody wants to do a program, that we have somebody in US who are, for various business reasons, is in US or in different time zone. So we kind of put that as a base, that we have a program in the evening, so why don't you facilitate, come on a video call or a Skype or whatever, so that we need not have to spoil our time. So it happens once in a week. So I have a program in X location in India, which is monitored and facilitated by somebody from US. It's early in the morning or during the day. So it makes our life easy, and the program is recorded. And if I want to go back and see who did what, I just spend half an hour fast forwarding who did what. I get a feedback of how the interaction happened. I also get a feedback from the person who facilitated. So we also get qualitative engagement with the devotees. Somebody get an engagement to handle the program. And also, we are also managing the time effectively, which is working pretty effectively. Still, we are trying to see how we can replicate in many other places.
Thank you. So the idea of optimize the use of technology for fulfilling these goals and these needs through WhatsApp or through different time zones preaching. So thank you very much. A lot of creativity, a lot of ideas, and one thing I wanted to share is that it's a fact. Sometimes it's the most wise thing to decrease our responsibilities. We have to be practical. We have to, first of all, protect ourselves. At the same time, please also let us remember that there are people who manage much more than us. I mean, there are people who manage countries, prime ministers, ministers. Imagine just in India, the minister of the railways, the largest employer in the world, millions of passengers, millions, and they manage somehow. They manage to do it. I mean, big companies, multinationals, proprietors of many business in different parts of the world. Apple, Microsoft, and these are human beings. I mean, they're not devas. They're human beings. Now, And some of them, these big CEOs, they find the time. They find the time to meditate. They find the time for their hobbies. They find the time to play golf. Somehow, so let's not. I just want to encourage you, suggest. Let's not believe that more responsibility necessarily means more stress. It's not necessarily. Of course, it's an art. How to delegate, how to do the work through people, how to raise, qualify people that can do the work for you. I heard there was a big, Giriraj Maharaj in the GBC college told us, there was a very big manager and some companies, in India, and he met Srila Prabhupada, and then he told the devotees, even the most greatest manager can be compared with Srila Prabhupada, because Srila Prabhupada manages the whole ISKCON, and he does not keep one sheet of paper on his desk. His desk is always empty. You notice that? I mean, his desk is empty. Things come, answer the letter, give the solution. The desk is empty, nothing accumulates. So this great manager was saying, Srila Prabhupada was a great manager. And he was actually managing the whole of ISKCON. He was managing 12 GBCs, he was traveling all over the world and so on. So it's just a simple request. Don't take it for granted that doing more means cutting on your spiritual life, on your sadhana, on your read. It's an art that needs to be learned, but it's not necessarily that more responsibility means less time for your sadhana bhakti. So thank you very much for this morning. It's 1 o'clock, time for our lunch. We have a very eager Bhakti Rasamrita Maharaj, so I feel inspired to give him the mic.
You see, I only mentioned the problem earlier of late nights, but I didn't have time to offer a solution.
Acha.
So some solutions have already come up by some good suggestions. I have two suggestions, partly only, they are part solutions. One is we reduce the number of late night programs.
Reduce the number of late night programs.
Too bad if the preaching suffers, we just reduce it. Instead of doing 6 days a week, we do twice a week. That's number one. Eventually, preaching will grow. Even with that, the quality of our life and everything will increase. The second is that I think it's a matter of us enforcing a kind of discipline in the minds of people, and we starting early regardless of whether people come or not, and gradually then people start coming on time. Just like now you're insisting we should come by 3, and if you don't come by 3:30, then we get a look, right? And there's a discipline, there's this.
A look of love.
So our programs too, if we just enforce a discipline that we're going to start, people will leave their work early 1 day a week. They will make some arrangements. Somehow or the other, they will just make sure that they come if they really want it bad enough. So these are just two partial solutions, and I think we can move
impose
in that
discipline, train people to come on time. Don't let them impose their own habits. One question, practical question.
What you said the last part, just now, we will go deep inside? No.
We do have a plan in this residential, the next, to talk about time management, and we may not be able to, prepare all of you to manage countries and big things, but we could offer some help. So thank you very much. Have a great time in your lunch break. See you all at 3:30 p.m. Hare Krishna.